I think know who you are, but if you want to just introduce yourself real quick for those that may not know who you are, well, I can introduce you. It's Gary Pickren with Blair Cato. They're just down the street from our office on Hugie Street. And we are also streaming live to Facebook. So if anybody who's watching on Facebook has questions for Gary through the process, feel free to comment there, and I'll relay the questions to Gary. But really, the purpose for the call today is really just to, have Gary try to provide some clarity on what's going on in the market that he's seeing as far as closings go, and provide as much help as he can for us as agents, in the current environment we're in, and talk about some best practices so that hopefully we can continue to keep doing business at the level we've been doing business. So
Okay.
I'll just kind of give Gary the floor and let him run with it. And wherever you guys have questions, feel free to pop in and ask a question or comments or best practices, or it's not necessarily just Gary talking today. We can all jump in if we've seen something or have comments about the way somebody else is doing it or whatever. So
Very
thanks,
cool.
Gary, and I will turn it over to you.
Man, thank you very much for letting me help you guys and talk to you guys today. We really do appreciate it more than y'all ever know, all the closings that have been coming in. We've always appreciated it, but even more now than ever. As y'all know, we employ about 45 to 50 people in our office. And so when I look at employing 45 or 50 people, I look at employing their whole families. Because it's just like you guys, everybody that works in our office, they have families. And so when you have 40 people working for you, you got 160 people kind of depending on you to continue to be able to make their paychecks for them so they can keep their homes and everything going. So every closing y'all send us means more now than ever before. And they've always meant a lot to us. But with that being said, we are now in day number 37 of the quarantine at Blair Cato. And what that means is we have basically sent everybody home about 7 weeks ago, a little over 7 weeks ago. We sent everybody home except for 6 of us, and 6 or 7 of us. And so what's been going on with us is we've been doing closings in the manner I think that is safest for your clients. And how we're doing that is that when your clients are ready for closing, they come to our parking lot. We're going to email them, the buyer, the package. They'll then pull the documents up on our computer. They will pull their documents up on their smartphone or iPad in their car. And then we go over the documents with them page by page. It surprisingly only takes about 15 minutes to do because you're not having to wait for people to sign. There's not a lot of small talk because people are just listening. So just basically, after that, we walk out to the car and we put on, as I think y'all probably saw one of the videos I've done, this is how we go out to the car. Like I'm ready to rob you, not ready to help you buy a house. But we go out to the car, we hand them the signature pages only at the car, sign the signature pages, and then lets us know when they're done, and then we come collect it. For the seller, what we're doing is we're going out and going over the documents with the seller. We're just standing back from the car, we hand them a settlement statement, we go over the settlement statement, and then we give them the signature pages. Now, it works well for safety. In my opinion, I had a couple of doctors from the ER that have been over, and they said that they thought it was the safest way we could do it. The downside of it, of course, is it's going to take a little longer to get funding numbers for everybody, because once we get the buyer documents back, I got to take them back inside, put them back together, and then send them to the lender. And so funding is not even starting until everything has been signed, where when we did closings in our office, as soon as they signed those 6 or 7 funding documents, we were getting those off to the lender. So unfortunately, funding's taking a little bit longer. So we have told agents not to necessarily come to closings, but we don't mind if you do at this point. I know Eric Tucker has been several times to closings. Obviously, we're doing them all outside. So we have had several agents that have basically come to closing, and they just stand 15 feet or so away from the car and talk to their client and try to maintain safe social distancing. So that's how we're doing closings. 2 other things I want to touch on before we take any questions is we are seeing, as far as what we're seeing for business, and then some other things we're doing. So first of all, wires, I want to talk about wires. There's some lawyers that I've been on seminars with. Some of them are like, yeah, we're telling people come to the office and do closings at the office. To me, it's just mind blowing that we are just doing those kind of practices. I think it's safest for us to do them in the parking lot. I think that's safer for y'all, safer for your clients. And I think people more right now are worried about safety than they are worried about the funness of a closing. And so I think it's the best. But for agents, what we're doing is for earnest money. We've had this program for well over a year now. If you're dealing with the earnest money, we have a program called Zocum, which you can download on your phone. It takes all of 30 seconds to download it. And then when your client hands you a check, you sign in and you basically can take a picture of the front of the check, the back of the check, and it automatically deposits it in our account, just like you do with your paychecks. It deposits how you deposit your checks at your bank. And so you don't have to deal with the earnest money. And your client can do it as well. They can download that app and they can use it themselves. So you don't have to ever touch the check if you don't want to. They can still wire funds to our office. We accept wires. Or they can even come to our office and call us and we'll walk out to their car and pick up their check. So there's various ways to basically eliminate your need to be involved in the earnest money and save you from having to touch anything. Our engagement.
What's the name of that app, Gary? Sorry, what's the name of that app again? Can you say that or spell it again?
Zoccam. And what I'm going to do as soon as this is done, I'm going to email the sheet to Matt that will give you how to download it. You can download it on Apple or Android. It's free. And when you first download it, it asks you to enter in your name, the company you work for. It asks for your license number. I really don't need it, just your name and the company you work for. And then you'll set a password. It's all it takes to set it up. When you go to use it, you sign in the password. It asks you what title company. You type in Blair or Blair Cato or BLA, whatever, and it'll immediately come up. You select Blair Cato. It will confirm it for you saying, are you sure you want to send this to Blair Cato? And you simply say yes, or you hit the yes button. And then it'll ask you to type in the name and the address of the buyer. You type in as much information as you want. And then take the picture of the front and the back. And when it's done, it says, congratulations, the check has been sent. Now, every time we do that, it costs us, meaning the firm, $10. And we eat that fee for y'all. That's not a fee we pass on to you or your client. So we just ask, make sure we're actually doing the closing before you send us the money, because sometimes they will send the money to us and the buyer's best friend is so-and-so, and so they'll do it. And so I'll wind up eating the $10. $10 isn't a big deal until it happens 30 times, and now that's $300. So, so if y'all be careful on that. Yes, Franklin.
Did you do a little video email on this? Did I see that?
I've done several. I can resend that to Matt so he can share that to you as well.
Elizabeth
So
would probably love to see that.
And I can send you the sheet on it. Yes, sir. So that's one thing. The engagement letters. Anytime you are meeting with a client that's using Blair Cato for a closing, a buyer or a seller, blaircato.com/buy or blaircato.com/sell will take you to our engagement letter. And so while you're meeting with a buyer that you're going to use Blair Cato for the closing, you can tell them, pull it up on your computer right now and fill this out while I'm finishing up the paperwork or whatnot, and they can go ahead and complete the engagement letter. So what that does, it puts everybody ahead of the game because we're not having to wait to get the contract in and send that out and wait for that information. It also gets you out of being involved with it. But our engagement letter we've worked on for 10 years now, and I think somebody told me they took them a minute and a half to fill out the other day. And
so Gary, I don't want to get in the weeds here. Did you see Lori's chat?
Yes. I saw something about that, and I know that somebody, I think it was Eric Simon in the office, had said, yeah, Blair Cato has an electric or an engagement letter. The reason we have to have the engagement letters aren't because we're trying to be difficult. It's not that, and it's not that we can wait to the last minute to get it. The information in that's very important because, for instance, it asks us or ask your client, do you want a survey? I need to know that when we get the file so that we can go ahead and get the survey order, because surveys don't take just a day. Sometimes they can take a week or so. We need information to order title. We need information to check on the buyer's information. We definitely need seller information such as payoff and HOAs. That stuff we can't always wait to the last minute to get. And the reason it becomes even more important is in our engagement letter, the buyer confirms that they are hiring us. And under our state law, most lawyers don't comply with this law, but most of what the law says is we're not supposed to begin work for somebody until they have actually engaged us. And it also talks about title work in there, so that if we never get that engagement letter back from your client and then your client just decides they don't want to buy the house anymore, we're now stuck with a $260 title bill. So I waive all of our attorney fees. We don't charge a fee if it gets canceled, but what we do ask is that we don't go in the hole. I don't mind that I don't make money, but I can't lose $260. So we simply ask the buyer to pay for that title search. So that's the way, if they don't sign an engagement letter, it gets very difficult to ask them to pay. So there's lots of reasons we need engagement letters and need them early. Now, I know some people have said, well, I don't want y'all to order title until we finish due diligence. Well, let's talk about why that's a problem. The reason that's a problem is our due diligence is 10 business days. It's not 10 days, it's 10 business days. So by the time you add the weekends, we're talking at least 14, 15-day due diligence period when you look at a calendar. The seller then has 5 business days to respond. So now you're looking at about 21 days after the contract is signed before you truly know what the house looks like, whether the seller's going to make repairs. And it could even go longer if you're negotiating. Well, the problem is your lenders want title within 10 days, most of them do, within 10 days of the loan processing beginning, because they will not send your file to underwriting until they have the title commitment. So if you're not authorizing me to get title work started until 21 days afterwards, we're now looking at 30 days afterwards before the lender gets to title work, which is not going to get your file to underwriting until 30 days into the process. So I understand there's an occasion, and sometimes the agents will say, hey, this house is a mess. Please hold off on that one, on title work. I get that in some situations, but the majority of the time, we absolutely need to be ordering title work as soon as you send us the file. And that's just a risk. It's just like taking, ordering an appraisal. The lenders will go ahead usually and order the appraisal up front as well. All right. Other thing I'll tell you that we do.
Gary,
yes, sir.
Gary, let me jump in one more time. On Zocam or Zocam or however you say it.
Zocam.
How, before we get too far off of that, Lori, one of the things Lori said, who's the downtown office's broker in charge, how do we use that app, or how do we have our clients use that app? Like if we wanted them to just write a check, take a picture, we don't have to meet them and get a check or anything like that. They just download it.
You can just tell them or send in the flyer that I'm going to send you and tell them to download the app on their phone, use it, and then they can just delete it right off their phone after they do it.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay.
Cool.
Other thing Matt and I talked about yesterday is wires. A lot of agents don't feel comfortable right now going out, and we certainly understand that. If you have underlying health conditions, I can certainly understand if you have asthma that you're just not comfortable coming to the office and getting checks. Blair, Cato will 100% wire your commissions every time for you if that's what you want. You simply let us know, do you want to come pick up a check or do you want us to wire it to you? It's up to you how we do it. It's up to you. We don't charge you a penny to wire your funds. So all you have to do is let us know how you want it done. We'll take care of that. With your sellers, we have a lot of sellers that are already out of state, and they certainly don't want to travel back to Columbia to do a closing. That's perfectly fine. We can send them the documents, but we do need to know about that in advance, because in New York, we ran across one problem where New York City's under full lockdown. And so we sent the documents to him, but he could not go to a notary because notaries were not deemed essential. And so he just simply couldn't sign the documents. And so that was something we kind of needed to know in advance. North Carolina, we had a closing, not a problem. They went on to a notary and got it signed. But after closing, we will 100% wire your funds, wire the seller of the funds, whether they are at our closing present or by mail away. We simply have a lot of precautions in place to make sure the wire is going to them and not to some fraudster. We will call them based on the number on the 1003 and have them verify the last 4 digits of their social security number and a couple of other things that only they would know. And then once we're convinced that that is who it is, and we ask them to confirm the wiring instructions, and that way we make sure the money goes where it's supposed to go. So definitely ways to do that. Yes, Franklin.
So Gary, are y'all, some of these closers, if I represent the seller, they're coaching me not to show up. The buyers, I can see where they would want their agent to be, their representative to be there and all that. But all in all, they're telling me not just, you're good. Just have the key, the seller bring the key. Take us through that. Are your realtors coming?
90% of the closings are without realtors, maybe more. And that's buyer side and seller side. The ones that show up typically are showing up for the check. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Believe me, I certainly understand what everybody's predicament is right now. And so I'm not taking that lightly. Sure. So please don't take it that way. But some of the agents I deal with, I know are living paycheck to paycheck, as a lot of people are. And so those are the agents that are typically showing up now so they can get their check at closing. Totally but I do have a few, Eric Tucker, one of them, that likes to be there for their client, and that's perfectly fine. If you want to come for your seller, you're more than welcome to stay in the parking lot and see them. But seller agents coming is very far and few between. Very few, very few. So talking about closings real quick, if I may, Matt. March, surprisingly, and maybe it wasn't a surprise to y'all, March was a record month. It was the best March we've ever had. And as y'all remember, the shutdown really didn't start with schools being closed until March 15th. So a lot of things were already in the pipeline from February, which was a record month, as well as early March. So March, we didn't see much of a slowdown. April through the 25th has also been a record month. And based on the number of closings we have scheduled, I think we had 40 something these next 3 days. And then Thursday, I think we have like 20 something just in the downtown office. We had triple booked every hour on the hour the last day of the month. April looks to be a record month as well. We opened record number of files in March. We did not open record number of files in April. So what is that telling us is that April file openings were way down. Well, not way down. We're probably down 15, 20%. For the very first part of the month. The end of the month, they're down dramatically. So I would imagine when we start looking at May, we're going to start seeing a dramatic slowdown in the number of closings in May. So I would expect probably a 40, if not a 50% decrease in closings in May. With that said, hopefully Governor McMaster has kept us essential, bless his heart. It is definitely, in my opinion, due to a lot of work by the CCRA, as well as Nick and Byron over at SCR. I think it's also doing a lot of work at Earl McLeod over at the BIA. Even Rex Casterline wrote a letter to McMaster begging him to consider us essential. So it was very nice that he did that and kept a lot of us still getting money, which has been fantastic for those that have been able to continue. But with all that being, I do see that we have a slowdown beginning. How long it will last, I pray not long. I do believe that McMaster is starting to slowly open things up. And when you look across the world as well as the country, we're starting to see more and more open up. So article I read from FHA the other day is, yes, this is going to be very, very painful. But they also said it's going to be very, very short-lived, in their opinion. So if we can survive, meaning us as the real estate industry as a whole, if we can fight our way through this in May and June, I think hopefully by the time we get to July, maybe we can get back to some type of normalcy. Now, what is normalcy? Hell if I know. It won't be what we're used to, but that is a problem, will be something to look at. The ROD has caused some issue, the Register of Deeds office. The Register of Deeds office in Lexington County and Richland County are closed to the public, including abstractors. Lexington is not as big of an issue because in Lexington, their records go back long enough. As an attorney, we have to do title searches for 40 years on residential, 60 years on commercial and lake property. We can do that in Lexington County on their computer system. The only problem you run across in Lexington is if there are some probate documents that have not been or can't be searched. Sometimes the probate court being closed, it stops us. But we have ways of finding the documents, such as getting to their attorneys and asking their attorney if they have those probate documents to provide us. Richland County is only good for 25 years, so that causes unique problems for us as well. But we've been able to work through almost all of those. And what that means is that we've got 25 years we can go back. We're missing the last 15 years. However, Cynthia Rex and I have been practicing for 25 years, and in those 25 years, we've probably done 100,000 closings each, altogether rather. And so we have files for 100,000 properties, closings. And so we have tons of back title. So what we can do is go to a back title. So let me give an example. If you have a client buying a piece of property in Woodlake, if we don't have the title for that particular lot and can only go back 25 years, all I have to do is get back to the developer, and then I can go to one of the 600 files I've closed in there, and I can pull the back title for that developer in another lot, and I can tie it in. All right, so that's good. The other thing we can do is our title insurance companies, and it helps. Blair Cato writes for 7 of them. Most attorneys only write for 1 or 2. We write for 7 different title companies. One of the benefits of doing that is I have 7 different title companies I can go to and say, look in your title and see if y'all have any back title work for us. The other thing we can do is a lot of our title companies are recognizing the issues and are willing to insure based on a 25-year title search instead of a 40, provided that title has changed hands a couple of times and provided there have been some mortgages. That way they know title's been searched a few times. The 2 issues we've had in Richland County have been We had one owner who's on the property for 60 years. I can't even get their deed. I don't know. I can't prove they own it. So that one has to wait. We also had one where there was a family agreement in the probate court, which is not really, doesn't really help us in real estate. And I couldn't get copies of what I needed from the probate court. So that has to wait. But other than that, we've been good. Fairfield County shut down. No chance you're going to do a closing in Fairfield County right now. And then Kershaw County, surprisingly being it's the hotbed of where the virus started, is closed, but abstractors can make appointments. So we can get title work. It just takes a lot longer. So those are the good things that are going on in real estate. I'm very optimistic. I would tell you, if you would have had this conversation with me mid-March, you would have thought I was about to cry. I was very stressed out. I was worried that the business was going to get shut down, that all of y'all were going to be without the ability to earn money, that my staff was going to be laid off, and it wasn't good. But, you know, as things have shaken out over the last 7 months, we've been very blessed. And I have to admit, I know everybody doesn't feel blessed right now, but it could be a whole hell of a lot worse for all of us. We could all be in the restaurant business. So we have to look at our blessings. The stock market is up yet again today. So that's another good sign. We have a Federal Reserve that is doing everything they can to pump money into our system. Whether you like the president or not, he is a businessman. He understands the importance of business. You may hate him, and it's fine. I'm not trying to promote him or anything, but I'm just saying he is a businessman. He understands business. He understands a lot of businesses that he may own will go out if they don't fix this. So I do feel like that's good. I do feel like Henry McMaster understands what he's doing, and he really wants, no governor wants this resting on their hands. They don't want the economy to collapse on them. So I do feel like there's a lot of positives going in the marketplace. You know, it all depends on what happens with this virus, but it does seem to be slowing down in places. There's, you know, the number of infections versus actual deaths. I read something yesterday that said 99.8% of the people who died in New York City of the virus had underlying health issues. 99.8% means 0.2% were healthy people. So when you start looking at those numbers, the vast majority of people are not going to die from it. So that doesn't help people like my mom who's got heart problems, but it does help the vast majority. So maybe some people will start deciding they want to sell. One thing I'm going to do and be on the lookout for it the next couple of days, and I'll just give you a little 2 seconds on this, is that I'm going to do a webinar. My business manager and I were talking yesterday, and I think this is a very important thing he said. In every financial downturn, there are winners and they are losers. And this one's no different. And think for 1 second, who's the biggest winner right now today in this downturn?
Zoom.
Exactly. 10 million views a day. Now 300 million users a day. Who would not want to see their business increase that amount? I mean, good Lord. They are an absolute winner. Who's an absolute loser right now?
Everyone else.
Every service industry, hotels, restaurants, airlines.
Salons.
How are people adapting? Look at what restaurants are doing. They're now all curbside. They never would have ever thought that high-end restaurants would be serving their food curbside. So my point is, I'm going to do a 30 to 45-minute seminar. This person right here, Cindy McGovern, is our business manager. Every job is a sales job. It's a New York bestseller she wrote. And she's authorized me to basically go through some of the sections real quickly for y'all, not today, but on that webinar, and talk about how you can be the winner in this downturn. And I think there's 3 easy tools she will get that she has in her book that I can talk to y'all about that can help y'all become winners in this situation. And I want all of y'all to be winners in this situation.
So Gary, if we were not, I appreciate all of that. If we were gonna talk specifically about transactional, like one of the things I just learned is that I didn't realize that Fairfield County does not have records to even allow closings right now. Most people on this call, I don't think, do a ton of business in Fairfield, but even Richland County, I know that somebody on my team just wrote a contract on a property that's in a state that was a guy that owned that property for a long time. And so that's in Richland County. So that's probably one that is a pretty good chance of not closing at all until this shakes out, huh?
Correct. So how you handle those is it's not, it's basically goes under the doctrine of impossibility right now. I don't think anybody would be held in default because basically under the doctrine of impossibility, it's impossible to close a transaction. Seller can say he's got good title, but the buyer can't verify it. So the doctrine of impossibility would allow the transaction just to terminate without penalty. Now, what you could do is a couple things. I don't really like much of them. One of them is extend the contract by using an addendum that was written by a lawyer saying that the contract will be extended until such time as the courthouse opens up so that these documents may be searched. The problem with somebody not being a lawyer writing that is that the person would typically fail to put a drop dead date. And what I mean by that is, or December 31st, whichever occurs first. So that if we got to December 31st and we're still closed down, then the contract was just terminated. It doesn't last forever, which could violate the rules of perpetuity, which is a law school thing you know about. So that's one way. The other way to do it is obviously do a lease, let them go ahead and start renting the house, lock them in under an option to buy, something of that nature, and do something like that. Last option, which I highly oppose, is the bond for title or the contract for title. I would highly strongly suggest you don't do those, as I think there's a bigger chance than not those will fail right now with the economic situation.
So what other things transactionally are you seeing? Like, are you seeing a delay in lenders getting you information? Are you seeing a delay? Like, what other delays are being caused that we can tell our clients to look out for, that we
so
can be
it
on the
was
lookout for?
interesting in March and early April that everybody seemed to be getting the closing packages to us earlier. I mean, it was like, wow, I like this kind of everybody work from home because, you know, we're getting our packages 2 days before closing, and we're getting our packages out to our clients a day before closing, and everything was going well. I think the influx of refinances have ended that. Rates have been historically low. I will tell you probably 20% of the closings we're doing right now are refis. So if you take out the refi business, we would not have had an historic March, and we would not have had a historic April. So some of this is based on that, which does not help you guys in the slightest bit. However, because of that refinance boom, that has stretched the lenders very, very thin. So what we are seeing a little bit more now than we did is packages are coming at the last minute. I've had closings today where we literally got the CD and the package 10 minutes after closing started. Even though we had the CD balanced and everything, we're still just waiting. And we're just rolling with it the best we can. Funding numbers are an absolute nightmare, as I said earlier, because here's the problem is once the documents are signed, I'm having to email them to a closer who is working at home. Every one of my closers have kids who are homeschooling or are in need of attention because they're young. They're also acting as custodians and janitors, and they're also having to act as cafeteria workers. And so, and a lot of y'all are too. If y'all have kids, you know what I'm talking about. My kid has not stopped eating since he's been home. I have to get them on the phone and say, hey, get this over there now. So they get it over there now. And of course, the person they're dealing with, in more chances or not, is at home with kids with the same situation. And so by the time we're getting funding numbers, they're often saying, okay, I need this document signed, or they didn't sign this one the right way, or we can't make this out, get them to re-sign it. So you go back out, re-sign it, send it, go through the whole process again 30 minutes later before you're hearing back. So it is taking much longer. I would strongly advise y'all to use local lenders. Cannot stress that enough. If you use a lender that has a processing office in New York, good luck if somebody's even working. You just don't know what's going on in other states right now. And you don't know how to get in touch with people. I mean, you can call and no one's answering because phones are ringing to their home phones. If you're dealing with your local lenders, pretty much all of you have cell phone numbers for them. Even if you don't, I have pretty much every good lender that we deal with, their cell phone on. So whether it's a Guild Mortgage or a Mortgage Network or Palmetto Mortgage, you name it, I've got all their cell phones. I can pick up the phone and call Trey and say, Trey, I got to get this, or Clint, I need this. And they're on the phone. John Hinks, I need this. And they can get that stuff. So when you have that local lender, it will help you tremendously, I promise.
Y'all don't miss that. Here, if you didn't hear anything else, hear that.
Yep.
And there's another reason I want to say that's also important. I have been in business for 25 years in this industry. And I can honest to God say, even without this coronavirus, I'm proud to be part of this industry. And the real estate industry it's kind of own separate little industry if you think about it. I mean, we're made up of real estate agents and lawyers and lenders and inspectors and all these people, appraisers. And we are more than any place I've ever seen, a close-knit group. Our realtors associations are strong. That's not the case in South Carolina and other places. I've been to other realtor associations where the only people show up are 80 years old. That there's not young people involved. Our BIA, our Builders Association, strong. And so let's support the local people, the local lenders, because they're local people in our who are family members of us. I mean, Trey Baker's got family, Clint Hammond's got family, John Hink's got family. If we support them, we keep them in business, which keeps our industry strong. And we need to keep that in mind. Keep giving business, sending a closing out to Bank of America in San Francisco, that does nothing to help our local economy. Sending a closing to Trey Baker, Clint Hammond, Brian Peral, Travis Wright, you name these people, it keeps money here where we need money being spent right now. So that's another reason. I don't mean to get a soapbox, but to me, that's very, very important to do that. And Blair Cato, by the way.
Hmm.
Well, cool. So hopefully everybody's gotten some value out of this. I think this has been awesome. What questions? What questions everybody had? I think you're ready for questions, right, Gary?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
What questions does everybody have for Gary?
Sarah asked me when that seminar webinar was coming out.
We're going to probably schedule that the first part of next week. So I'll get, Claudia's going to get a date. It'll be about a 30 or 45-minute webinar, and I'll let you guys know. I'll make sure that Matt gets that email so y'all can all sign in. We'll probably do 50 to 75 people limit on it so that people can ask questions and be involved a little bit more. We have 2 classes with CCRA coming up. I think one's next Thursday for their Code of Ethics class. We do that online, Zoom like this. It is a webinar, so you can sit in your pajamas and drink beer. Nobody's going to be seeing you or hearing you. It's just a webinar with me and the slideshow. And then we also have our core classes, the MCE classes, and that coming up. Laurie, if you need your broker in charge class, we do have that class coming up. I think it's Monday, Cinco de Mayo, the 5th. We have that class coming up. So if you need your 4 hours for the broker class, that's coming up as well.
So I just have another question. Have you run into we had an agent that had an out-of-state deal that you're talking about with in New York. Are online notary services allowed in South Carolina?
Excellent question. The answer is no. Right now, the answer is no. Cynthia Blair in my office, who was the president of the American Land Title Association, she's worked for almost 2 years with the State House trying to convince the State House to let us move to remote online notary. The biggest objection we had from it, surprisingly, was lawyers. They said, oh, this is just going to get rid of the lawyer role. It lets anybody do the closing. No, the closing still had to be conducted by a lawyer. It just meant that if Franklin was down at the beach or wherever, I could email him the documents, go over them with Zoom with him. He could hold it up and said, I've signed it. And when it comes back in the mail to me, I can notarize it. Right now in South Carolina, I have to be present in front of the person when they notarize. And with the COVID virus, that's not exactly the safest way to be. The other states have it. New Jersey's just passed it. New York has it. And so problem you're going to have is a lot of your clients are going to say, well, my state allows it. Well, South Carolina doesn't even recognize it when other states allow it. So I do not believe we will get online notary as a result of the COVID virus. There's too many objections to it. Beth Bernstein has been pushing it very strongly, as has Nick Cremitis. But we just don't believe it's going to happen. Because we don't think that Henry has the ability legally just to do an executive order. It takes a bill, and they're not going to get it done. So the other thing we're looking at is, can Henry pass an executive order saying that we can recognize another state that has it, meaning that you can send it to New York, they can have it notarized remotely with their notary and have it done in their manner and then sent to us so that it's legal. Right now we can't, but we're hopeful that soon we can. And I think that, honestly, that's probably the best we can hope for.
That is an interesting answer.
Yeah.
Workaround.
It'd be kind of a neat workaround. I mean, if I got a client in New York City, he can't leave the house, he can sign the document, mail it over to his notary. The notary can get it in the mail, sign it, and then mail it to us. So it could be a great workaround if Henry will do it.
Or we could drive to Charlotte or Augusta.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the guy from New York asked if he could drive down here. We're like, and this was during when New York City was exploding. We're like, no, don't. You got 14-day quarantine. You come down here. Sorry, dude. I have no underlying health issues, but I am 50, and I'm also the worst case scenario guy. Every surgery I've ever had, they always say, well, this one time this guy came in. Yeah, that's always me. So I ain't doing it.
So anything else that you can think of that, you know, I think the thing that a lot of us are, or at least me specifically, I remember just being surprised by a lot in the 10-year ago market shift, being surprised by a lot of things that happened. I'm trying to make sure that I'm remembering what those things are and putting those out to everybody so that we can prevent as many surprises as possible. So, you know, the notary thing is a great one. You know, some of the other things we've talked about, like, you know, having to do a title search that goes back 40 years, and in Richland County, if somebody's owned it for 50 years, there's no way to go back and really do much because there hasn't been a title search recently. So
Right.
I'm just trying to think if there's anything else like that.
Well, two other things I've run across that might be of importance to y'all. It might cause delays for you. One is, keep in mind that I did a closing. This is a funny ass story. I had a guy that we did a closing for. He bought a house with us. His wire had not come in from the sale of his house. He was expecting enough money to pay what he needed and then take $10,000 home. We did the closing with him at 2 o'clock, no wire, called his attorney. I'm getting it out. It'll be there shortly. At 4:30, he told me, or Brandon, he was going to drive his blank truck through the front of my door if I didn't give him his money. And then at 4:45, he told one of my interns that he was going to call the police. He did call the police. I literally walked outside at 4:50 to fund another loan, and there's 3 police officers standing in my parking lot. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And he says somebody owes him some money. And I'm like, yeah, his lawyer, he did a closing for, they sent the money over here. It hasn't hit our accounts, goes to the Federal Reserve. You know, I told the police officer, like, this is stupid. I'm like, yeah, it is stupid. And the guy's like, he stole my money. I'm like, I'm pretty sure the guy's not going to lose his law license over your 10 grand. I'm just pretty confident of that. You know, if he's going to steal the money, he's going to steal more than that. And it was a matter of a problem with the bank. The guy had, this particular lawyer could not do wires on the phone. He had to go in person to the bank. Bank hours are weird and lobbies aren't open. So my point being is, if you're doing back-to-back closings, sometimes it's better, and I'm saying this, it may even hurt me losing one of your closings to somebody else. I hope it helps me gain your closing. But if you've got a client that's a buyer with one firm and selling with another firm, try to do them with the same firm, because that way there's no wire back and forth and it shouldn't be a delay. So if your seller becomes my buyer, I don't have to wire the funds to anybody and then wait for that whole transaction to happen. That's causing delays for you. So that was one big issue. I had one other one, but I can't.
How long are you seeing closings take right now? I mean, I know that's also a mortgage question, but in general, what are the contracts you're seeing coming across as?
You're talking about how long is it taking for us to get them from the contract to close?
Yeah,
or how long
there was a question that, like, when we're writing a contract, should we write that? Usually, it used to be we write it for 30 to 45 days usually.
45 days is what I'm hearing lenders are saying is the minimum they need, because of the amount of refinances they're having. And apparently rates are down in the 3s again. So that could be an issue. Though the other issue I was going to tell you is Richland County, Lexington's up to date on recording. Richland's like 10 days behind. So if your client's in a situation where they need to be able to show recorded deed in order to buy something, I had that happen the other day. We submit it the day of closing, but Richland's not proofing it for 10 days. So they won't give you official, it's recorded for almost 10 days now. So that's a problem if they're buying something else and they need to show evidence of the sale. We can send them the signed deed, but it won't have the clocked information on it for almost 10 days now. So that's a problem. One other thing that I thought I could talk about, Matt, for 2 seconds, because this is important, mortgage deference. If that's okay to talk about that with y'all. If any of you feel like you are struggling making your mortgage payments, there are some things that you can do. Now, if you're not having problem making your payment, please don't call your lender. They say they are slammed. It's just don't do anything. But if you know already, looking at how the numbers are for you, that your May payment is not going to happen, or your June payment might not be able to happen unless something drastically changes, you can call your lender and ask for a forbearance. Now, the forbearance is only for federally backed loan. That is FHA, VA, HUD, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, not conventional. Now, most conventional lenders now have pretty much adopted the same standards that the government-backed ones are. But good news in Columbia, well over 50% of people have government-backed loans. You can call your lender, ask for deferment. You may ask for up to 180 days of deferment. That's 6 months. You can then ask for another 6-month extension, another 180 days. So you can defer your mortgage payments for almost a year. The good news is they will not put it on your credit as past due or late. So it will not destroy your credit. There was a problem with it. I think they have fixed it. There's 3 ways of paying this money back. The number one way that most lenders were making you do it, which didn't make any sense, is you could get a deferment, but the day your deferment ended, your payment started back immediately, and any payments you missed became immediately due, which made no sense. If I can't make my $1,000 mortgage payment for 3 months, what possibly makes you think I can make a $4,000 payment on the 4th month? I mean, it does nothing for me. FHA just came out and said that will no longer be an option on the table. They cannot do that. So the 2 options are this. They can take the money you deferred, divide it by 12, collect your payment, and then 1/12 of what you deferred when your deferment ends. So if you deferred $12,000 worth of payments, when you start back, they'll just add $1,000 a month on your payments, and you'll go from there. Most people won't be deferring 12 grand, but that's the case you're looking at. The other thing some lenders can do is just add it to the back of the loan. So if you have a 360-month loan and you're at month 300 on it, and you defer for 6 months, you now owe 306 months. They just add it to the back of the loan. No penalty, no penalty payments on that. You just accrue interest during that time, your regular interest, whatever was in the note. So that's some excellent information to know that, and if y'all feel like today, tomorrow, or next month that y'all might start struggling with that mortgage payment, take advantage of that before you miss payments. Save your
But
credit.
ask, because
Yeah,
each lender's different.
Yep, that's a good thing
Every
for
lender's
us to
different.
be able to talk to our clients
Just
about.
ask for options.
It
What
is
are my
your-
available options, sir or
It
ma'am?
is your servicer's decision, and solely your servicer's decision. They're going to ask for financial information. I think once you tell them you're a real estate agent, to me, it doesn't matter how well you did last year. It matters to me how well you're doing this month. So hopefully they'll take that into consideration.
Correct. Yeah, that first option I just couldn't get over that.
Made
All
no
of a
sense.
sudden, I owe $10,000 in 3 months. I got a worse problem than I have right now.
Yeah, I mean, it just was guaranteed foreclosure. Awful. So,
Cool. What
Thanks
other?
for that tip right there, buddy.
Yep. What other questions do we have out there for Gary? Anybody else have anything they want to? Anybody on Facebook that we got watching, or anybody else? Nothing. Cool. Well, hey, thanks, Gary.
Matt, you've got my email, so if y'all come up with something afterwards, just email me or call me on my cell phone. I'm more than happy to answer any questions or give you any help y'all need. I will email Matt the Zochem app information. I'll email him the video I did on it. I'll also email y'all as soon as I find out the date that we'll do that little webinar for y'all.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks much, Gary.
Y'all stay
As
safe, stay
always.
strong.
Thank
Talk
you.
to-
All right,
talk with you
appreciate
soon.
all of y'all. All right, bye. I'll leave the meeting so y'all can do your office meeting.
Yep, we're good. See ya.